it is with a lot of pride that we move on to our fourth panelist, our own neighbor and citizen of Yachats, Wally Orchard. It was a very, very good day when we had a Yachats Trails crew event. We were doing some improvements on the Prospect Trail, and Wally and I were on our way down to look at some foxtail that had gotten started in the community. And as we were walking there, Wally said to me, "So, have you thought about having a committee for invasive plants?" And of course I had, but you know, I couldn't be in charge of it, so I wasn't going to say anything about it. So I mentioned that, yeah, it's something that we should tackle, but it's a huge problem. He said, "Well, I think I might be willing to do it." Yes. So it is with great delight that we have a retired chemistry professor who has landed in our beautiful community, who I understand is a very formidable bridge player and raises his own hybrid orchids, who is now the leader of the Yachats Invasive Plant Committee. And I will now turn things over to Wally.
Well, Laura Lee is nothing if not inventive. I remember very little about what she's just told me. And I do appreciate that she considers me to be a citizen of Yachats, because I was under the impression you had to live here at least 10 years before you were even considered for citizenship. And I haven't been here even 4 years. Also, I know very little about invasive plants, but I do have some spare time, so I do think that invasive plants are really something that need to be dealt with. I think many of them have had more than a century to encroach here and to spread, and until very recently, very little has been done that I know of in Yachats or in other communities nearby. But one thing is certain, however big the task is, if we don't do anything about it, the problem's only going to get worse. So I'm not expecting very rapid results, but I do sort of hope to make a fairly methodical approach, work on selected areas, and try and make some inroads against these plants. So technically, I think my title is I'm the chairman of YIPS, which is the Yachats Invasive Plant Subcommittee. We plan to have regular work outings, once a month at least, usually on the third Saturday of the month, similar to the Trails Crew outings, but different date. So we're going to have these monthly work parties to work on invasives. Our preferred method of working on them will be just manual control, digging them out with devices like our weed wrenches or hose or whatever tools, hand tools we have, in preference to herbicides. I'm not going to say we'll never use herbicides, but our first resort is going to be manual control. We've done a little bit of work already, focusing on, and our focus is going to be on the trail system to help the trails crew keep the trails weed-free. Also other public land I'd want to work on, like the wetland behind the commons here, where there's quite a lot of invasives, and that's a prime site, I think, for some treatment. We collaborate with the Trails crew, and the Yachats Youth and Family program have asked us if we'll work with them, and I'm delighted to work with them as well and get some of our younger citizens interested in and knowledgeable about managing invasives. We're going to do some educational outreach. We're already doing that. We produced this brochure late last year. Many of you have got one through the mail. If you didn't get one, they're available at the back of the room there. And on this are 6 of what we have decided are the worst invasives, with details on how to identify them and how to treat them. Also, with that brochure is a supplement with a long list of invasives, a much longer list, and also a list of suggested replacement plants. Now, Paul has mentioned that Paul has spoken about a much more detailed table of possible replacement plants with a lot more information. So this is really just a start, and perhaps a lot more work has to be done before you make a decision about how to replace invasives with non-invasive species. One thing about this supplement is it's available online at yachats.info. And if you get the online version, you can click on just about every weed on this list, and there is a link to a website that gives you much more information. So if you really want to find out more about Herb Robert, for example, go to yachats.info, download the online version, which is a PDF file, which every computer can handle just about that I know of. Open the document. It looks just like this, except that all of these weeds have got links to websites. So that's quite a useful thing to do if you want to find out more about some of these invasives. Our main focus with the invasive plants crew is going to be public land, public rights of way, but I don't want to say we're not going to help private landowners at all. In fact, we hope to be able to provide them with some advice. We don't want to spend a lot of our resources clearing private property of invasive weeds when public property has got plenty of invasive weeds to deal with. One place we have already done some work is the Sierra property, where they've been brush cutting for years and spread quite a bit of knotweed. And we had a good session there late last year, and we cleared a lot of the knotweed out of next to the Sierra parking lot. Of course, we have to go back there and do a lot of follow-up work to ensure to remove the regrowth. All of these situations, as Paul mentioned, you can't just go in there once and clean it out and expect and leave it. You have to keep going back over and over again and removing the regrowth and doing something about planting replacement plants. So you're all dying to know how you can help, aren't you? You can sign up to, there's a sign-up sheet at the back to join our work parties, which will be, as I say, one Saturday a month. If for any reason that doesn't work for you, I see no reason why individuals can't get involved or small groups get involved on other occasions, provided they know what they're doing. In other words, hopefully they'll speak to us first and get some guidance as to where they can work and what sort of work they can do. Some people in Yachats have already taken on responsibility for selected invasive plant patches, like specifically I'm thinking of knotweed. So there are a couple of people along 101 South who are actually managing knotweed patches in the ditch next to 101, close to their property, and being very successful at it. So that's another way we can go, is people taking responsibility for managing patches of invasive weeds. You can inform us about new outbreaks of invasive weeds that you see. A couple of people have informed me about knotweed patches that we previously didn't know about, so that's a very useful activity. You can make donations if you want to. I'm not really begging for donations, but invasive weeds it does cost money to remove them. We need implements, we sometimes need fuel. Sometimes we need to replenish our replenish our beer level afterwards. But actually, our main need now, we had a very successful fundraiser on Tuesday. We raised over $1,000, and that'll keep us going for a while. So our main need is human bodies working out there to help us in our work party. By the way, those weed wrenches are excellent for removing Scotch broom. If you have Scotch broom on your property, now is the time when the soil is still wet to remove the Scotch broom, and weed wrenches work amazingly well. Don't cut Scotch broom. A weed wrench will pull out a piece of Scotch broom this tall if you get the big size, the large size. If you cut that Scotch broom, next year you'll have a little low plant with lots of branches going along the ground. The weed wrench won't do anything to that because you can't get hold of it. So cutting Scotch broom is a disaster. Use the weed wrench or else dig it out. I just thought I'd mention the two most contentious invasive plants issues that I know of in this town. One is knotweed, to spray or not to spray. And as many of you know, Josh was due to spray knotweed at selected sites, not all of the knotweed sites in town, but the worst ones in town. He was going to spray last fall, and that never came to pass because the Concerned Citizens for Clean Air, another local group, took action, and the Soil and Water Conservation District decided not to abandon the spraying for the season, which makes the knotweed situation a lot more difficult to manage. So it becomes a bigger problem. And I have to say that the Concerned Citizens, the CCCA, did then work on a knotweed patch in the southern part of town, and they're going to continue monitoring that and managing it. But I'd really like to see them become a permanent, long-term part of the solution to our invasive weed problem, rather than stop us from using methods that they don't like. If they become part of the solution, that's great. The other place where there's serious differences of opinion is on the riverbank in Quiet Water, and I confess I'm a resident of Quiet Water. There's a lot of reed canary grass growing along the riverbank, and that's on the Oregon noxious weeds list, I believe. And the city and the Quiet Water Management have been at odds, to put it mildly, over how to manage the riverbank, how to restore the habitat, the riparian habitat on the riverbank. So those are two issues that I know of in Yachats where there are certainly differences of opinion. I think all of us want to get rid of invasive weeds. That's one thing that we can all agree on, and I look forward to your support in the future. Thank you.
And just so you know, these lovely weed wrenches, I keep wanting to say wrenches, but weed wrenches are available on loan from the city. All you need to do is go into either the city office and ask to borrow them. You can check them out. Or if you see Leon, he knows where they are, and he'll be very happy to check them out for you. So just know that this is something that you can have in your own size. So, all right.